Hello, my name is Mark. Welcome to Mark Thought About It. Thanks for joining me. Well, for today, I wanted to speak about something that is really close to me, something that I follow very closely. I am a huge fan of WWE wrestling, have been since maybe the early 80s or so. I know a lot of people might laugh about it and look at me and say, man, I can't believe you look at stuff like that. But that's just me. I love it. I have never stopped watching it. I continue to support it. But I will say that over some time now, there's been a lot of conversation and criticisms about the WWE and some of their head people about the writing for their black characters, their black wrestlers. We can talk about a man by the name of Paul Levesque. I remember when I was watching wrestling before he joined. I remember when he did join. Paul Levesque came in as a wrestler, and at one point he was called by the name of Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Eventually, they gave him the nickname of Triple H. If you have ever heard the nickname Triple H, whenever they say Paul Triple H Levesque, that's who they're speaking about. Sometimes they even still call him Hunter, or sometimes they'll just call him Triple H. He put his wrestling boots up a little while ago, and he went up into the front offices. He's one of the main people in charge of WWE. For one time, Vince McMahon ran everything. Over the course of the last few years, Vince McMahon got in trouble and had to get out of the limelight and the company and may even face prison time. And Paul Triple H Levesque, who is his son-in-law, he married Vince McMahon's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, and he runs the place basically. So a lot of the criticism goes to Hunter. Now, I'm going to say that it's important to realize that we live in a time where everyone, no matter what sport you're watching, in some form or another counts rings. They're counting rings for championships. Some sport is counting belts as championships. Some are counting cups as championships. But it's all the same thing. They're chasing championships. And eventually, what happens is when you come to your retirement days, there's a conversation of how many rings did you get? How many cups did you win? How many belts did you have? So this is where you hear someone say, Jordan has this many rings. Brady has this many rings. The Yankees have this many rings. Even as teams, they count these things. So now it's no different in wrestling. It's the same as boxing in a sense of the championships being done. And what happens is you look at the history of a WWE and you'll say, well, who has the most of these things? Who has the best of it? Well, you look at someone like Ric Flair. Ric Flair, not only did he wrestle WWE, but he wrestled in other wrestling organizations as well. But he has 16 championships recognized under his name. It's the most. But he's also tied with John Cena with 16. And behind that, you have Paul Triple H Levesque with 14, tied also with Randy Orton with 14 belts. So this carries a lot of significance to the WWE fans as well. They count those rings too. So besides Hall of Fame, those are the things that's in the conversation of a wrestler's career. But when it comes to the black wrestlers, it makes it different because what happens in wrestling is, and here we go with the real conversation. Do I think it's real? I think it's real from the sense of I'm watching the physical. I know the contact is real. I know this much. But the wars, the reasons for fighting someone, the pettiness and backbiting, all of it is written in a script. It is no different than watching a soap opera. All my children, Young and the Restless, or even the night soap operas like Dallas and Dynasties. Me, myself, anybody that knows me know that I call wrestling a violent soap opera. It comes on every week, Mondays, and goes on Fridays for SmackDown. And in the history of WWE, as I stated, there have been 6 black men who've held the championship biggest belt, 6 black women who have held the championship biggest belt. And I'm going to speak from the men's part of this. The first black man to hold a championship in the WWE was The Rock. The Rock, who is Dwayne Johnson, and for those who don't know, that is the actor, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He got his start in WWE. His father was a pro wrestler who held a tag team championship in back in the day. And The Rock, his mom is Samoan, so he's part black and part Samoan, for those who did not know. And he's the first black man to hold the WWE championship before his acting days. And he was such a great entertainer, such mic skills, what we like to call it, on it to be able to talk that talk. And you can see where Hollywood would be calling. The second man to hold that championship was a wrestler by the name of Booker T. Booker T, he got his start on a wrestling organization known as WCW, and he wrestled with his brother. And the reason why I'm doing this is because they were wrestling like they were brothers, but in real life they were not. And they were named the Harlem Heat. It was Booker T and his brother, Stevie Ray. And they were a great tag team. They were dominant as ever. And eventually, the push was made for Booker T to go solo. And Booker T, he won his championship in WCW as a solo 5 times. 5 times. 5 times. That was his thing. I loved when he done that. But eventually, he ended up joining WWE, still the big name of Booker T as he was, and he was only given the chance to win 1 championship in his time with WWE. Okay, so one of my favorite things I could say was Booker T won what they call the King of the Ring. They give you a crown, a scepter, and a robe, and he all of a sudden got an accent, and he called himself King Booker. He and his wife, his real life wife, Charmel. That was awesome. I love them for that. The third one to win a championship as a black man was Mark Henry. Mark Henry wrestled as the world's strongest man. Walk around with his tights with WSM on there, World's Strongest Man. And he was very young when he caught the eye of the WWE. And he was a legit strong man, a real life big time weightlifter, going to the Olympics and winning world records in his weightlifting. And he joined them when, like I said, young age. And when he did, they tied him together with a group of black men who were known as the Nation. They come out, we are the Nation. And at that time, you had Ron Simmons, who was wrestling as Farouk. You had Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. You had the Godfather, D'Lo Brown, and Mark Henry was the young one. Eventually, as that time went on and he got his experience and he went solo, this is when they pushed the World's Strongest Man. And at one point, he had a run where he called himself the Hall of Pain. He was his thing was to hurt people. I'm hurting you. I'm putting you in pain and such like that. And he ended up winning the championship under the Hall of Pain, Mark Henry. And that was very nice. So that was good to see. The fourth person to win that championship was Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley was a big bodybuilder, big arms, big neck, and he was also a former military man. He won the WWE Heavyweight Championship 2 different times. And my problem is when I talk about a push, I mean the writers can direct who holds a belt, when they get it, how long they get it, and when they can get it again. Bobby Lashley was never given such a push. When he won his belts, he didn't get to maintain it, hold it the way it should have been written. They were writing him as a most powerful and feared man, but it seems like after they get to that level, they're like, okay, let's give somebody else a chance. The next person who won a belt, black man, was Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston was from Ghana, Africa, and he was a wrestler who's known for being a tag team wrestler with a group called the New Day, alongside of Big E Langston and Xavier Woods. And they are great as a tag team. They did a lot of comedy as well as they did it, but they were also winning tag team championships. At this time, the WWE saw fit to give Kofi Kingston, who at that time had probably been wrestling about 12 or 14 years with the organization, a push. And it worked. And what happens is the fans now, WWE called their fans WWE Universe. The Universe was crazy for Kofi Kingston. They wanted him to be that guy. And WWE did listen, and they pushed it. And they made a great storyline. They even followed him back to his home country in Ghana. They followed with his family situation and all. And when he won, actually in the ring, it was very emotional. The New Day were in there. They had his kids in there. They were all crying. People out in the audience were crying and everything else. It was an amazing thing to be had. But they didn't let him keep that belt. So Kofi won his championship, and that was all she wrote for him. And then the last person on this list as a man who won the championship with WWE was Big E Langston. When he won his belt, still being a member of the New Day with Kofi and Xavier. Once again, a big, powerful man. He was short, stocky, built, but strong. And you would think that would be a long time conversation about Big E this, Big E that, whatever it is. He won the championship. They had him lose the championship. And he went right back to, go back to tag teams for you. No more push as a solo threat. I have a problem with WWE and have had for some time. I got me and my cousin, we speak about it. He is a fan as well. We go to the events when they come to our town. We watch every pay-per-view. And he always said, I'm done, cuz. If they do this again, I'm done. I can't have this. But eventually we would always stick around. So my problem was, can I say that it was Paul Levesque's doing? I don't know. But I can say it is a WWE writer's doing or fault. Is it Vince McMahon who did it? I don't know. He's not in charge anymore. So we can't just lay it at his feet. Or is it a WWE front office issue, which is also part of Triple H? The Rock's words was finally. So finally, The Rock got that championship, and we rejoiced. And it could have been just as good as any of my Chicago teams that I love so much winning a championship. Things like that. The thing is, you have The Rock, Bobby Lashley, you have Kofi Kingston, you have Big E. All of those champions, all lost their championship to Brock Lesnar. The writer's favorite, the writer's choice. All of them, all four of those gentlemen lost theirs to Brock Lesnar. You had a situation, you wrote this storyline for Kofi to be all of this. He wrestles Brock Lesnar, and loses the championship in 9 seconds. You have a situation where there's a great war going on between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. And then you get to Survivor Series, and they have these glass cages that these guys will be in and be let out one at a time. A wrestler gets thrown into Bobby Lashley's cage. The glass hits him. He gets carried out by the doctors. He was a champion. He didn't get to wrestle because of injury. And Brock Lesnar wins his championship. These are writers' things. This is how it gets to the point where you possibly could be losing fans over this nonsense. And realize I'm talking about something that happened a couple of years ago, and it still stings. Then you have Mark Henry, who, the world's strongest man, they decided, let's go comedy with him. Big Mark Henry, humongous of a man, and they wrote him and changed his character to Sexual Chocolate. And when he was Sexual Chocolate, who was he going with? 80-year-old Mae Young. They wrote the character that Mark Henry and Mae Young were an item to the point where Mark Henry got 80-year-old Mae Young pregnant. This is what we're dealing with. So you have it where my cousin says this. I'm going to give him his due. I'm going to give my cousin Jade his props. He's sick of the black wrestler being the comedian as much as we love R-Truth. R-Truth is a great wrestler. He's a great physical condition, even for the age that he's in. But they never want to take him serious. He always got to have a comedy in his. You have the New Day. They got to be comedic relief. Mark Henry has to have 80-year-old woman pregnant. You can go on and on and on. I'm only going to list a few because of the time. And then it doesn't stop there at the men. I said that I was just going to speak about the men, but even with the women, I'm just going to name a couple of scenarios. Bianca Belair is a champion, one of the black women champions in WWE. Becky Lynch was the champion at one time. She had to give her belt away because she found out she was pregnant. She left the show to go have her baby. When she came back, the champion was Bianca Belair. They did what they call a pop, where they make the crowd explode with surprise. And Becky came out while Bianca was in the ring, high heels, earrings hanging, and everything else, just talking on the mic. Becky comes out, confronts her, says, that's mine, or however they phrased it. And they had it where foolishly, Bianca Belair accepts her challenge, takes off the high heels, and then Becky beats her, takes the championship from her in less than 1 minute. Continues on into the pattern. It just really does happen this way, the way they do it. And it becomes to the point where when you're dealing with the black person who becomes that big dog, who holds that belt, there's no longevity to their championships once they get it. Once they lose it, it's so hard to get another chance to get it back. And then you have it where they will lose it in the goofiest of ways. Like I said, Bobby Lashley in a glass cage, didn't even get to wrestle, lost his belt. Kofi, 9 seconds, lost his belt. Becky just comes up out of the blue, takes it back from her in less than a minute. Where, right now, out of all the ones I named, and I'm like I said, I'm not going to get into the complete detail of it because of time, but right now, your past champions, you have Bobby Lashley, Sasha Banks, Mark Henry, and even Naomi. They all left and went to the rival All Elite Wrestling, AEW. Now, Naomi has come back, but the other ones are gone and been gone. There is, and there should be a thing about representation in anything, but even in this. And what I mean by representation. I'm talking about these storylines. I'm talking about as long as they have been on the air, and even though it is 2024, there's still not great representation in the WWE. Representation doesn't just mean black. It does not. Representation of women, representation of blacks, representation of Latinos. You can go down that line. If you're going to do this here, you're talking demographics. You're talking age groups. You're talking representation of people and such like that. So who does not want to see someone that looks like them succeed and thrive? That's what I'm saying. Even if it's occasionally, why can that not be the case? So Triple H, you say that you are not a racist, and now I'm not putting them words there. This is what a reporter was asking him after a pay-per-view race recently. But listen to me, Triple H. Giving someone a title just to have them lose it in the goofiest ways that you do it, that's not representation. You have situations where I clearly remember this, and this is off the top of my head. Bianca Belair is from Knoxville, Tennessee. They had them on TV in Knoxville, Tennessee. The crowd was exploding for Bianca Belair and everything else. She's the champion. This is where she loses her championship at, in her hometown. That's rare. Very rare. Now, the other part of it I don't like about your writers is you always want to call somebody a monster. You build them up like a world beater. And this is what I mean with Bobby Lashley, with Mark Henry. I didn't even say they were Braun Strowman. But you don't give them pushes for titles. You always had them having non-title fights with another monster. And then when they do get the belt, they lose it without, like Bobby Lashley, without even wrestling to show their strength. You have a big 7-foot character named Omos, O-M-O-S, who was walking around scaring everybody, walking over the top rope. No championship runs for him. Didn't even give him a good push. Just walked around, had him fight 2 other big guys and spend part of time. And don't forget, you did the same thing to Keith Lee. You had Keith Lee running through NXT, destroying people. That guy was great. Then you brought him up on the main roster, and you token them off into that big monster fighting stuff again. And now where is he? AEW. So let us pray that you don't do the same thing to Obafemi, who's your champion in NXT right now. And please let us not do the same thing with Nia Jax like you did the last time she had her championship. So I went off on a little tangent there, but I'm telling you, I really am into this. And one of my distant wishes would be, I wish I was one of those writers. I wish I could write for them. I love it that much. It is a great show. So I'm not on a full attack mode. I'm just letting it be known that we see, and I can't be the only one who sees it. So with that being said, I thank you for allowing me to get that off my chest. I hope that you all will continue to follow me with content. I hope that you will like and subscribe to me, and please hit me with some comments. I know I got me some wrestling fans out here who can join in on that conversation. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for your support, and I will close this out for now. Take care. Bye-bye.